The project shown in this video can be found in the textbook Technical Drawing 101 with AutoCAD, available from SDC Publications.
All right, we are going to get started on Chapter 9, the Blocks chapter. We are working on our guest cottage right now. We're going to create some blocks for the guest cottage. We're going to insert the blocks into the guest cottage and get it ready to plot. This is the last part of the guest cottage, and then it'll be ready to, it'll be a complete project ready to submit. So the first thing you want to do is open up your original guest cottage drawing. We drew the project in Chapter 4, we added dimensions in Chapter 6, and now that we're in Chapter 9, we're going to add blocks to it. So I've got my original guest cottage drawing open, and it's telling me to create some layers. I need to create plumbing, electric, and wiring. When I create those layers, I need to set the wirings layer to Phantom, the line type to Phantom. So we're going to go to Layer Properties, create a new layer, and we're going to call this one Plumbing. And you can make them any color. Again, we're going to plot this thing in black and white and monochrome, so as long as you're using the index colors, it doesn't really matter what color you use here. So we can use any color we'd like. So let's go blue here. So that was plumbing, electric, any color you want, and wiring. Wiring can be, again, any color. Let's make it, let's make that cyan. And for the wiring or line type, instead of continuous, we're going to need to load in a new line type, and we will, if you just start typing it, it'll go right to it. So Phantom, set that one current. So wiring is Phantom, plumbing and electric are both continuous. They're all default line weight. Close this out. Now we're getting ready to start drawing these blocks, and it's really important to understand or to know or remember this part. When you create a block, it is so important to create it on layer 0. All blocks should be original. The original geometry for a block should always be created on layer 0. The reason for that is layer 0 is a neutral layer, so it'll take on the properties of other layers once you insert that block. If you create it on layer 0 and you want to put it, like let's say we just created that wiring layer that's got a Phantom line type to it. So if we insert it on the wiring layer, that block, it'll take the Phantom line type, it'll turn to whatever color we set the wiring layer to, it'll take on the properties. If we were to originally create that block on the wiring layer, for example, no matter what we did, when you try to change that block to a different, let's say we needed to change it to plumbing for some reason, we would try to change it to plumbing. It would say it's on the plumbing layer, but it would keep the properties of wiring, it would keep the color of wiring, it would keep the line type for wiring. So it's really important, I cannot stress this enough, when you're creating blocks, you really need to make sure that you're doing the geometry on layer 0. When you insert it, that's when you put it on what layer it needs to be on. All right, so we're going to get started. I'm just going to move this off to the side, and we're just going to draw some blocks right over here. So I'm on layer 0, and I'm going to go ahead and draw that tub. So I'm going to do a rectangle, and that rectangle is 2'6" by 5 feet, so 2'6". Remember, AutoCAD assumes inches, so it just needs the foot symbol. 2'6" by, hold on, I forgot to set my units on this to be architectural. All right, so now we can do a rectangle that is 2'6", comma, 5 feet, and I've got a rectangle right here. Now we've got the interior part of the tub that's going to be offset 4 inches to the inside. So I'm going to do my offset command, and I'm going to type in 4 for 4 inches, press enter. The object to be offset, if I go on the, and I haven't clicked yet, but if I just hover on the inside, it offsets inside. If I hover outside, it offsets outside. I want to go inside the tub. Press enter. I'm done with the offset command. The next thing I need to do is the fillet command. So I'm going to start the fillet command. I'm going to type R, enter to set the radius. It tells me the top corners are 6 inches, so I'm going to do 6, enter. So R, enter, 6, enter. I'm going to go ahead and do M, enter, M for multiple. I know I'm going to do a couple of these, so I don't have to keep starting the fillet command. It just stays active until I end it. So those two corners are a radius of 6. Press enter to end that command. And I'm going to fillet again. R, enter, radius, 2 inches. So just 2, enter. R, enter, 2, enter. Again, M, enter, lets me do multiple fillets. And that's it. That's a nice looking tub. So I've got the tub. I need to make it into a block. So a couple of ways that I can do it. If I'm on this home tab, I do have a few little block commands right here. I can create, I can insert from here, or I could go to the insert tab or the insert ribbon, and I've got much more options in here, but can create a block here. So either way, it's the same thing. Create a block, or if you hover next to it, it tells you what you can type. You can just type the word block. When I create a block, there are 3 things that I need to do. I need to give it a name, tub. I need to specify a pick point. It tells me that the tub's upper right corner is my pick point. And that's the base point. So when I get ready to insert it, that's where I'm holding that tub. And then I need to select the objects. So just draw a window around the tub. Press enter when you're done with this part. So I've given it a name, I've specified the base point, and I've selected the objects. Once you select the objects, you see a little thumbnail up here showing you what your block is going to look like. If you forget to do a base point, it defaults to 0, 0, wherever that is in space. And so when you get ready to insert that tub, you're holding it by 0, 0, and when you insert, it's entirely possible that you won't even see the tub. It's hanging off of your display, your screen display. So it's real important to remember to do that. Select the objects. Now we do have 3 different options here. I have retain, convert to block, or delete. It does not matter which one of these you choose. It's completely user preference. So if you were to say retain, when I come back out of here, retain allows that rectangle and those lines and arcs, they just stay the way they are, exactly the way they were when I selected them. They're just lines and arcs and rectangle. If I say convert to block, what I see on the screen converts to a block. Either way, whether I say retain, convert to block, or delete, I'm still making a block. There will still be a block in my block library. This is just what we're doing with the geometry that I've just selected on my screen. So retain keeps it the way it is. Convert to block converts what I see to a block. Delete gets rid of it. It just deletes it off the screen. Delete's a little bit scary at first to click on because you don't want to delete it. You want to make a block out of it. But this is just talking about what we're seeing on the screen. You've still made a block. Delete is actually my favorite one. I'm going to go ahead and just say retain just so we can kind of keep track of the blocks that we've made. But as you're making a whole bunch of blocks at one time, delete's a great way to do it because you can just see which ones you're done, or they kind of disappear when you're done with them. So you can see which ones are remaining. So I'll go ahead and say retain just for the sake of this, but you could select any of those, whatever you prefer. So name, base point, select the objects, and say OK. If I look over here, go to insert and insert here, I can see that tub. I've created the tub. It's in my block library. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to do is draw the lavatory. So the lavatory, it's just a rectangle and an ellipse. I'll just come over here, draw a rectangle. My rectangle is 4'6" by 1'10". I'm going to draw an ellipse. A couple of ways that you can do an ellipse. I like the one that's a center. That way you specify the center and then you give kind of a radius and a radius. So I'll start that one. And for the start point, it tells me where to start it, but really it's in the center of this thing. So a cool thing you can do is shift right click. You can say mid between 2 points and you can click any 2 points across from each other and you've started it right in the center here. And now I'm gonna hit F8 just to make sure I'm making straight lines here. doesn't exactly matter. But my radius, I know that this has, in this direction, in the horizontal direction, it's a 1'8" major axis. Half of that, so 1'8" is 20 inches. Half of that, if I'm going to do kind of a radius, half of 20 would be 10 inches. So I'm going to go 10 inches that way. And then going this way, vertically, it's 1'2", which is 14 inches. Half of that is 7 inches, so I'll say 7. And that's it. I got a lavatory. I'm going to go on and keep drawing these blocks and drawing the geometry, and then I'll come back and make blocks out of all of these. I've got another rectangle. I'm going to make the commode, the toilet, the potty, whatever you want to call it. And this one has a rectangle of 1'8" by 6 inches. Oops, I did not do 1'8" by 6, did I? I didn't catch what I did wrong there. 1'8" inches by 6 inches. There we go, much better. Now this time I have an ellipse, but I know that that ellipse, to get to the tank part of the toilet, I'm going to go from this back edge down 1'8". So in order to do that, I am going to start the ellipse command. If I hover right there, I'm using my temporary tracking. Do you see how I hovered right next to it? If you just sit there for a second, you see how I left behind a little green plus sign? That is temporary tracking. I did not actually click there, but I started there, hovered there. It's called acquiring a point. I acquired that point, and now I can pull my mouse down. You see that dashed green line is allowing me to come straight down exactly vertically from that point, and I'm going to type in 1'8", and this is just saying I'm going to start my ellipse command from that point down 1'8". It's a lot like that from OSNAP command that we have talked about. And then we are going to make this, it's got 1'8" is the major axis of this, so 1'8" is 20 inches. We're going to call it 10 to do kind of a radius there. And then this way we are going to go 1'4" is, ooh, what is that? 16 inches, so that'll be 8 inches this way. Beautiful. I have myself a toilet, a commode, a potty. All right, we'll come back and make blocks out of those. I'm going to make the ceiling fan real quick. Now the ceiling fan I'll make over here. I'm going to start off with the circle diameter command. First diameter, it says, is 4 inches. The second, they're concentric, so starting at that same center point, the second one is 3 feet. Now I'm going to draw a line starting at that top quadrant, and I'll turn off my ortho so you can kind of see. I want to drag it just generally. It would have worked with my ortho on, but I'm just going to drag it out this direction, and it doesn't matter how long you make it. I can always extend or trim this block as needed, but I do need it to be 80 degrees. So instead of worrying about the length right now, I'm just going to press tab and I'm going to type in 80 for 80 degrees. And I did it. I drew a line at 80 degrees. I've got this one. It tells me the difference between the two is 20 degrees. So I'm going to take 80 plus 20. Again, the length doesn't matter, but the angle is 100, 80 plus 20. Now I can come in here and trim. Press enter when I start that trim command. I'll just trim out the excess and trim out that part of the circle. So I've got one blade. I'm going to go ahead and array. It's going to be a polar array because it's going to go around in a circle. I'll just array the blades. I don't need to select that circle. Press enter. It wants to know the center point, so the center around which we're going to array. So the very center of that circle. I only need 5 blades, so 5 items, and that's it. I would uncheck where it says associative. It's not the end of the world if you leave it associative. I just prefer to uncheck that since we're going to make it into a block, and close the array. So I've made a ceiling fan. One more block that I need to make, and that is the light fixture. I'm going to draw a circle. Has a diameter of 6 inches. I'm going to draw a line coming out of it a distance of 1.5. Now you could continue and draw 1.5, 1.5, 1.5, or you could just do the array command. Select the object to array, enter. Select the center point, enter. Tell it you just need 4 of them. And then close the array. Alright, so I've made these. Now I need to go just make them into a block. So I'm going to say create lavatory. I'm going to choose that top left corner as the base point. Select the objects. See a little thumbnail here. I'm going to go ahead and say delete, so it just deletes it off the page when deletes it out of the drawing. It's still there though. If I say insert, there it is, lavatory. It's okay that it deleted it off the screen. Create the toilet. Pick point. Select objects. Press enter. Give it a name. Base point. Select objects. Okay. Create. This one is going to be light fixture. Pick a base point. Select the objects. And it really doesn't matter what order you do all these in. Say OK. I'm going to create fan. See if I wanted to select objects. Press enter and then pick a point. It doesn't matter, as long as you do all 3, it really doesn't matter what order you do them in. I'm going to say OK to that. Get rid of this guy. I already made him into a block. Alright, so now we're going to set the plumbing layer current. And I'm going to insert, let's get that lavatory right here. Insert tub right here. Insert toilet. We need to go right in between. I'm going to do shift right click mid between 2 points, so between here and here. And then it's really right up next to the wall. I'm going to go ahead and move enter. Just going to move that down a little bit so it's not right on the wall. So, done with the plumbing. I am going to now set my electric layer current, and I'm going to insert some blocks here. So light fixture, put that light fixture right in the corner here. I'm going to go ahead and copy that one. Turn on my ortho so that it's perfectly straight. I just want these in line with each other. Looks good. Got a couple of more light fixtures to do. So light fixture. We're going to put one right outside the front door. For our front porch. Oops. Put one more light fixture. I think we have one in the closet, right? Yep. Got one right here in the closet. Just kind of eyeball it. Just kind of center it. We don't have any dimensions where these things need to go. Going to go ahead and insert our ceiling fan. Again, just kind of generally put it in the center of the living room. It's about right there. Alright, so we've got the blocks in that we created. There are a few more blocks that we gave to you in the template. So you already have a switch in the template. We're going to go ahead and put some switches in. That switch, you might want to do shift right click and go nearest. That way that switch is definitely sitting on the wall. And then I'll copy. We'll just do 3 of those switches. Oops. Where else do we need switches? I've got a switch in my bathroom. Shift right click, go to nearest. So it's sitting right on that wall. Got another switch in the closet. We got to be able to turn that closet light on. Oops. Grab it by the grip. Shift right click nearest. Perfect. So we've got all the switches that we need. Now we do also have to put in the little outlets. And we gave you a block called outlet. Now this looks a little different than you might see in your book, and honestly you see outlets both ways. So sometimes you see it where the prongs, the lines for the outlet, are sticking out from the wall, and sometimes you see it where they're poking into the wall. And you see it both ways. Honestly, when you look at architectural firms, they really do have it both ways. So it doesn't matter which one, it's kind of a style, a preference. So the one that we gave you by default has it facing this direction. And this is it. We're just going to kind of put it in. There's no dimension to where these are, so I'm just going to, as I put these in, I'm just going to kind of snap them into the midpoints of those walls. I'm going to go ahead and copy. I've got one more at that angle. Right there. I'm going to insert another outlet. And I'm going to go with rotate, so you can press that down arrow until you get to rotate. Let's rotate this thing 90 degrees. And let's see, where do I need one? I need one right here. I'm going to copy that one to here. I'm going to insert another outlet, R for rotate, 180. We'll put this one at the midpoint of this wall. We'll insert again, and this time we are going to R for rotate, 270. Put it right there. And is that it? Let me see. I think that's all of the outlets that we need for this little guest cottage. All right, so the next thing we need to do is we're going to come in here, and actually before we get too far along, I am going to go ahead and set the text layer current, and I'm going to just type in single line text about right here, making it 3 inches tall, the book says. And I'm going to type in all caps GFCI. That is short for ground fault circuit interrupter. That is, when you look at your outlets that are near a water source, they have a little reset button on them. And that is just in case they get splashed with water. You have to press that little button so it doesn't blow a circuit. You just press that little button. If your hairdryer sets it off, or if anything happens, it's got the little button that you can reset. So you need those GFCIs when you're near a water source. All right, so we've got that. The last step that we're going to do here is set the wiring layer current, and we're going to go ahead and make splines. So I'm going to use the spline command, and I'll come over here. Press enter. The first one goes to that outside light for our front porch. Press enter just to repeat that command. Got another spline I can put here. Another one. One goes to the light, one goes to the fan, so it's got two kind of going to the same place here. Ooh, kind of went crazy, didn't it? There we go. Got another one here. When you're doing these splines, this wiring, just make sure you go around any words. You don't want it to touch your words or your dimensions. Splines are the very last thing you want to put in, this wiring. There we go. So everybody's going to look a little bit different. Everybody's wiring is going to look a little different. As long as it goes from the switch to the electrical component, you are fine. So now we've got all of this done. We've got all the steps taken care of. Now we're going to move into step 15. It says you might have to adjust your LT scale or your line type scale. And so if you need to do that, LTS, you can kind of adjust it and play with it and see what works best for you. Maybe I want to make it like a 5. I don't know. You can play around and see, just so we can see our dashes. So we've got the LT scale set up, looking good. Now what we need to do is print this. And so we're going to click on this layout. And actually, when we're back over here, any kind of dimension text, everything, it's telling us that the text height, what the text height should be. The text height for the notes should be 3 inches. We definitely do want to have a note on here saying that the walls are, what did we do the walls on this one? 4 inches thick. So we'll put it kind of right here. 3 inches. Or you could even say wall thickness. That's better. All right. And this does not need to be on the wiring layer. We'll put that on the text layer. Okay, so we'll come back over here. Oop, one more thing. Turn off that magenta, that model space. There we go. We don't want to see that when we plot. So we've got it looking good. Come in here. It is already set up to be at 1/4 inch equals a foot in paper space, so that's good. Project name. Guest cottage. You can fill out the rest. City, state, school, all of that. Drawn by. It is 1/4 inch equals X, and that is actually written like this. 1 foot dash 0 inches. You'll fill out the date whenever you're ready. Oh, also you're going to come up here and fill out the window schedule. So window A, window B, what size is it? What size is it? Type. These are SH. These are single hung windows. And then quantity. You just come over here and count how many A's and how many B's do you have, and you fill that out. When you're ready, it should be set up. Once you've filled out the title block and that window schedule, you should be ready to plot. And that's it. You're done with the guest cottage. Congratulations.